Hello, welcome to part 5 of Roundup on all the U.S. Tier 10 cruisers. And finally, we're in the Austin. And just to kind of get it out of the way, I think Austin is not only just hands down the most fun of the U.S. Tier 10 cruisers, not only just one of the most fun cruisers in the game, to me, this is one of the most fun ships in the entire game. There's not a lot much more fun you can have in World of Warships than in the Austin, in my opinion. Um, you have, like, unironically god tier anti-air. We just bursted this Malta squadron for almost 40,000 plane damage. Um, we're building into the AA a bit. If you notice, I started asking the Sherman at the start of the game to smoke us in, and he is. And the Austin is a good ship. Playing solo, it's fun, but any kind of team play and the game impact of the Austin just becomes up there with the radar cruisers, honestly. So he's smoking me up, so I am completely dark, and we can now pop the reload booster. And with this build on the Austin, we're taking heavy HE and SAP and reload mod. With this build on full HP, the Austin has almost 1.3 million AP DPM. Sorry, SAP DPM. Almost 1.3 million. It's about 1.27 something. I think I actually was a little slow on the acceleration. I didn't want to leave the smoke until the planes were gone, and then I mistimed my acceleration just a little bit. Ate a torp that I didn't have to. And far be it from there's kind of this meme that goes around where like Austin is insanely good with the reload booster up, and then it's like a tier 6 or a tier 7 ship without it. Um, if you take heavy SAP and HE on Austin, you basically have the same SAP DPM base as Des Moines HE DPM. And I'm not sure a lot of people would say that Des Moines HE DPM is tier 8 damage output, right? Um, I do get what people are getting at, that the Austin has way more. We just wiped another squadron. I mean, we're at 81,000 plane damage. Like, the anti-air, especially building for it like I do, is just, it's insane. It's actually deterrence AA. You can still get dropped. A determined carrier will still drop on you one time, of course. But, yeah, they're going to lose a squadron per drop, basically. Um, but anyway, the SAP DPM of Austin without the reload booster is about 320,000, assuming you're taking heavy SAP, which you should be, right? And Des Moines has just under 300,000 HE DPM. So there's no reason you just should never be shooting your guns in Austin. I feel like a lot of people do this. They just don't shoot their guns in Austin without the reload booster. Now, I wouldn't, put myself in danger, right, without the reload booster or something like that. But this idea that you just, like, you're in a safe position and you shouldn't be shooting is kind of crazy. Like, the raw damage output of Austin is very respectable. Um, Now, obviously, it being SAP and Destroyer caliber SAP, you don't quite have the absurd pen angles on your SAP that BB SAP does. Like Loria and Colombo, they gain the ability to ricochet at 10 degrees. Or sorry, they gain the ability to ricochet at 20, and they guaranteed ricochet at 10. The Austin's not quite like that. You do realistically need about a 20-degree impact to penetrate people. You also only have 36 mil pen, so there are quite a lot of battleships where upper belt is not available even to you. Like even the U.S. high tier BBs with 38 belts, you can't pen that. Obviously, the Germans, the Italians are out, but like French and the Russians are out. But like French, British, and IJN battleships, you do pen upper belt very nicely, and obviously you pen superstructure on everybody. So, there's varying degrees to how hard you can shit on a broadside battleship. Things like Yamato, Bourgogne, Thunderer, Conqueror, these kind of boats, like you do absolutely massacre them. Um, you can absolutely get dev strikes, literal dev strikes in Austin at closer ranges on battleships where you pen everywhere. It's absolutely hilarious, but it doesn't happen all that often. Realistically, you're kind of mostly in an ambush role for most of the game. You also have excellent torpedoes. Um, they travel 10.5 kilometers. They hit for, I believe, over 19,000. Yeah, 19,000 damage. Good speed, fairly decent concealment on the torpedoes as well. They're absolutely excellent, especially combined with this 9-3D tech. You have good firing angles on the torps as well. Um, and all of this just kind of lends to like a very dynamic gameplay style in the Austin. When it comes to ultralight cruisers, which Austin is one, it basically gets destroyer plating. Um, Now Austin does, like Jinan, have a bit of a troll 32 millimeter belt, and as long as you're fighting a ship with a gun caliber under 460, you can actually use some kind of silly, goofy plays, especially at closer ranges. But I mean, as you can see here, like I don't want to waste a reload booster, but like, there's no reason to not chip in a salvo here, chip in a salvo there. If it's ship that you pen everywhere, something like most heavy cruisers, again, the battleships that were aforementioned, the SAP is more than capable of 6 to 9,000 ish reliable hits at closer ranges where you can kind of guarantee more accuracy. So you definitely don't want to be, totally gun silent without reload boosting. Now, the reload booster damage is so elevated. Um, you have to keep in mind, in the 15 seconds that the reload booster is up, you basically pump out an equivalent amount of damage as a Des Moines would spamming HE for an entire minute. And with the build, we're taking consumables reload, and we're also taking the consumable reload signal. And the base reload booster reload time is 105 seconds. So every 105 seconds of a reload, you get to just pump out an obscene amount of damage. Hindenburg has an upper belt. We basically pen him everywhere as long as we don't hit right near the water line. And he is a little bit far, but even with a suboptimal use of the reload booster, I mean, we're in and out, and it was about 20,000 damage all told. So you're delivering like a battleship salvo a lot of the time with the reload booster, and that's kind of under like poor case scenarios too, because you have to keep in mind that there are situations where it's not quite a fair comparison to say it's a battleship salvo, because obviously there are times a battleship would one-shot somebody, and the Austin maybe you don't quite one-shot somebody, but there are there's also the opportunity in a battleship you get artillery bugged, and overall, I kind of look at the Austin reload booster on broadside targets as like a guaranteed solid battleship salvo, right? And for this kind of reason, like, in many ways, you are nearly the equivalent broadside threat of a lot of battleships for people who don't know that you just reload boosted them. Like, that Hindenburg knows I just boosted him. So obviously I'm not really a big threat, but this is the issue with the Austin and the unlimited reload boosters is that the Austin always has it, basically, unless you've personally seen the Austin player use the reload booster. So kind of no matter what ship you're in, you have to assume that Austin has that reload boost available at any given time. And if that means you're a DD pushing in, and there's an Austin nearby, you have to be 100% certain there's no enemy DDs to spot you. Like that Holland at the start of the game just made like a critical error, because me and the Sherman were both detected, and there's a CV in the lobby. So like, the odds that he's gonna get into C and not get spotted are 0.00 repeating percent chance. It's just literally never gonna happen. And you know, you have to basically assume the Austin's going to basically dev strike your destroyer if you get spotted nearby. Another kind of not great use of the reload booster, but this guy was going to go down, and there's nothing for us to shoot at anyway. But it's such a fun kind of hit and run play style in the Austin. That's very, very unique. Um, there's not a lot of other ultralight cruisers that are this fun. I'm a big fan of Radar Minotaur. I think Radar Minotaur is a lot of fun. I also think Colbert is a lot of fun. I would put Radar Minotaur, Austin, and Colbert as kind of like the three most fun ultralight cruisers to play. But I do think Austin is the most fun because Colbert is a very one-dimensional ship. You just run around, speed juke, spamming HE. Every now and then you get to spam some AP at broadsides. And the Radar Minotaur is very fun, but it doesn't have obviously this burst damage. Now, do I think overall a ship like Radar Minotaur is stronger and has more game impact than Austin? Yeah, I do. Right. I think if you're an equally skilled player in both ships, that your just raw game impact in something like Radar Minotaur is probably higher than in Austin. But the Austin's game impact is not to be counted out because there's multiple ways to damage farm in this game, obviously, right? And I kind of mentioned this in the Puerto Rico video. There's like the constant chipping away at people. Like, let's say a Montana's pushing and you are kiting in a Zao, and you're maybe averaging 5,000 damage per hit every 14 seconds, and you're getting a fire maybe every other hit, and the Montana is cycling heals, and 3 minutes into that engagement, he's used 2 heals, but he's still permanently like at 70,000 HP. I mean, there's just something about it, man. There is just something about watching this many shells fly through the air. There's just something about it. It just warms the heart. It really does. And honestly, something like a Des Moines actually would have lost that fight. It wouldn't have had the bursty damage output to actually survive on that HP pool. So there are absolutely situations, that's one in particular, where the Austin is uniquely survivable compared to some of these, well, honestly, all of the other ones. Des Moines, let's assume similar HP, no heal available. Des Moines, Salem, Worcester, and Puerto Rico would all absolutely 100% die to a Kiting Hindenburg at 14 km. Because they don't have the ability to just one-shot it basically for 20k HP. Now, that's kind of a fringe situation, but they do happen. The point being that there are situations where Austin is many times more effective than the other U.S. cruisers. Now, do I think it happens as many times as the others are effective? No, I did mention in the Puerto Rico video that from my play style and just maybe my innate lack of skill in Puerto Rico, I actually think I have more battle impact in Austin than in Puerto Rico. But let's go ahead and jump into the next replay. All right, we're in the next replay. We can talk a little bit about kind of ships you have to look out for in Austin. It's very important to have a good memory for all the ships. First, you got to always keep in mind the super heavy cruisers with the medium caliber guns, like this Alaska and this Yoshino. They do overmatch my 16 millimeter bow and stern. So, good shots from them in the front and back can be painful. And then ships like Yamato are basically your biggest issue in an Austin because they ignore that 32 millimeter armor strip on your side. And a lot of your tankiness in Austin, especially at closer ranges, is derived from that strip of armor plating. Anything with a caliber below 460, you can kind of go like about 20 to 25 degrees. Not perfectly nose in because they will shoot your nose, but we'll show it in the port, kind of what you want to do angling in Austin, but you can be very resilient against most battleships. The Yamato on this enemy team, not so much. As far as CVs go, the only ones that are really a problem are Malta because of the carpet bombing. He can just like randomly luck get 3 or 4 citadels and take a third of your HP pool. And then obviously Nakimov because there's so little deterrence to Nakimov players to strike you because you don't like shred their squadrons. They drop outside almost your AA range practically, right? So I'm kind of doing a not great use of the reload booster on this Alaska. I'm only really going to get maybe half of it off over this island before he gets away. But, I mean, even a very, like, kind of objectively poor use of the reload booster um, is still, I mean, like I said in the last replay, it's kind of like a solid battleship salvo. You know, I would say 12k on a pushing angled Alaska with a battleship is, I'd say, like, again, that's a decent BB salvo. But this is kind of the positioning that I'm gonna be taking basically every game. You saw me take this kind of similar positioning in the first replay. Um, I want to be near where destroyers may be. That's number one. Two, you have limited range in Austin, so you don't want to be just like AFK kiting. You don't want to be the absolute tip of the spear, but I mean, if you notice, I'm basically the second farthest forward ship on my team. Me and the Yodo are far forward. My Shima is far forward on the flank, but I want to be a torpedo threat and then have enough battleships in my range. I have no idea why this Vincent slowed down here. It's kind of a choice, but I mean, there you can see the torpedo damage, 40,000 damage with 3 hits. The torpedoes are excellent, a double flood. I was kind of hoping that I get like super lucky. He wouldn't have DCP cold mod and I could maybe get an ass fire, but I was not in fact that blessed. But the key with the Austin and why it feels so interesting most of the time is the combination of patience but then controlled aggression. Um, a ship like Worcester, I would not call. Uh, I wouldn't say you have to be patient in the Worcester. I would say you have to be passive. Whereas in the Austin, I don't want to be passive. I don't want to be exclusively letting enemies push into me. I don't want to be only shooting from safety. Um, but kind of in the same way, like there are many times if you're a Vermont player, there's many times in the Vermont, right, where you will have plenty of ships to shoot at, and you won't shoot at them, right, because you're waiting. You're like, ooh, if that Des Moines on that island pushes forward to radar my destroyer up the cap, I'm gonna get a free dev strike, and then you hold and you hold and you hold, and then you do get that free dev strike, right? And your patience was rewarded. Not really quite the same thing as passive, um, because Austin is at its best when it's aggressive. I think. Now you obviously can't be suicidally aggressive and push into like 2 Des Moines and a Yamato or something crazy like that. Um, but you do want to be positioned fairly far forward. Like this position that I'm in right now, there's no battleships on my left side. It's really just the Alaska who can do good damage to me at range. And then I'm kind of, if you notice on the minimap, protected from the BBs by the island. And I'm just trying to get into a position where I can use the reload booster on cooldown because, you know, I am building into it, right? I'm taking the signal, I'm taking the captain skill to get it back 15 seconds faster combined. I'm taking the 4.8A skill in large part to get it back if planes target me. And there you see again, I mean, not a perfect use of it. Alaska angled in and then back out, and it's still a very, very solid chunk of damage into him. And it's just this hit and run play style that is to me extremely. It's very dynamic, and it's very fun. and it's very high impact when done right. It really is. You don't have the impact of the utility that Des Moines and Worcester have, but the burst damage is extremely impactful, and also something that happens a lot in the Austin is people shoot at you a lot. And I'm not saying that the Austin never like one shot gets blown up. I mean, it's happened to me. It's happened to everyone who plays the Austin. Every now and then you just blow the fuck up. But the boat is like surprisingly not that easy to kill at medium range. 13 to 4 to 15 kilometers, the range at which Austin reload boosts your battleship. It's not it's not that easy to kill, and if you don't have 32 overmatch, then it becomes a very troll prospect because you're almost exclusively reliant on overmatching the deck, which basically every battleship does do. But again, at these ranges, Austin's reload boosting you of 13, 14 kilometers. Deck pens are not all that likely, and I mean, they happen, but they're not reliable. And you're kind of like relegated to ass pen, like trying to get it, sit it through the ass. Um, Minotaur is probably like one of the worst cruisers to fight in Austin overall, because if you want to use more than just your back guns, like I'm trying to use, he does smash you. Now, if he angles even just a little bit, I'm gonna pop the reload booster like right here, and we are gonna do a pretty crazy amount of damage just in the little bit of time that he was angled there. He's super healing right now. Like this guy is using his super heal, and it doesn't even look like he's healing because that's just how much damage I'm pumping into him. So now, if this was a pure 1v1, you notice that really the main reason why I won this fight is because he stopped shooting me and he angled up to the Yodo. But I did lose a substantial amount of HP, and my really only hope here is like the Yamato has to clean miss me because literally just 2 overpens or a single saturation pen kills me. So I'm trying to bait him by just like throttle juking over and over again, and then coming to a full stop as I'm about to get dark. And fortunately, he's not the best shot, and he missed. So kind of dicey, but again, this combination of concealment, you can get dark very easily. And then the kind of damage output, I mean, none of the other U.S. cruisers would kill the Minotaur that fast. Absolutely none of them would. And while it is true that the Minotaur wouldn't do as much damage to Des Moines Salem in that situation, the Minotaur would live long enough for Yamato to absolutely kill me in basically uh, any other U.S. cruiser. So. And Yamato, of course, is an unfortunate ship. Like I mentioned, it ignores that 32 side. So it's one of the few battleships in the Worcester or in the Austin, sorry, that you can't really brawl. Now you see my reload boosters almost on cooldown, and if the Yushikov and Yamato positions were reversed, if the Yushikov was pushed deep through the islands and the Yamato was where the Yushikov currently is, I would actually go push him. And that might seem crazy, but I promise you there is probably less than a 1 in 10 chance that I would get one shot on 10,000 HP by Anushikov. Once you kind of get the angling down, get a nice blind fire torp, and I'm just AFK blind firing. The Yamato's he's the only ship on their team that I can't brawl, because he just shoots me literally anywhere, and even with just overpens, I would get one shot. But the Yushikov, even on this HP, that might sound like retardedly aggressive and suicidal, but I would actually be pushing him if this was the Yushikov. And so now that the Yamato is dead, I am going to kind of full push, because I'm not afraid of Worcester, and I'm not afraid of the Yushikov. And a lot of it in Austin is, I feel like there's a lot of people who don't know about its 32 belt, because there are times where battleships will shoot you in the belt in Austin, and it just doesn't even make sense why they would choose to do that. Um, and I'm not talking about like you're baiting them, which is what you're trying to do. What you're trying to do a lot of the time in the Austin is go at about 40 to 45 degrees, enough where you can absolutely get penned straight through the Citadel belt and blow the fuck up. And then as they fire and as their shells take, maybe 4 or 5 seconds to travel, say you're 10 kilometers away from them, you swing into 20-ish degrees and you bounce off the belt. Um, there's a lot of battleship players who I think truly just like don't understand. They assume it's this ultralight cruiser and they can shoot you anywhere. But even players who know where to shoot you, they know about your gimmick armor. It's just kind of easier said than done. And this game is obviously a win. I'm just trying to push in and get a little bit more damage before it ends. But yeah, even players who know where to shoot Austin, it maneuvers so quickly that you gotta like really really hold your shot when you're fighting Austin in a battleship because you like I said you get one chance. Um, and this Ushakov is about 20 degrees, and because of the slope of his bow is really closer to about 25 degrees, more than enough for us to pen. Um, and yeah, I mean, you can see the kind of damage output. And his bow is saturated, right? So these are saturation hits. And unfortunately, these guys ram, and I couldn't get more damage. But I mean, just there at the end, it was a solid 25k just into the bow of a Soviet BB. Yeah, it's just really man, it's just my kind of play style. Kind of in a nutshell, it's how I love pushing in on people and feeling like it had to do with skill because in the Austin you have to combine knowledge of your pen angles, all the armor profiles of the ships you're shooting. Ideally, you want to combine that with knowing how saturation works, and as soon as a part of the ship gets saturated, you want to switch to get basically double damage, right? You need to know exactly how to bait people to shoot your belt, how to angle in so that the belt ricochets, but shots through the nose don't quite citadel. Um, it feels kind of like the most earned. And something like Des Moines Salem, you kind of just go nose in AFK and just hold left mouse. Um, Now, is that more effective with their radar and their effective damage output, HE and AP? Yeah, it is. I'm not going to pretend that Austin is more game impactful than Des Moines, but it is game impactful if played well, and it's way more fun. But we can go back to the port and go over the build and equipment and all that. All right, we're in the port, and we can go over the. Let's start with the equipment first. Um, there's really nothing crazy here. Definitely, in my opinion, you want to take reload. The lack of gun range at many times is an asset. This is very true of the Colbert. There's definitely parts of the game where you can't do anything because you're out of range, but the extra DPM is nice, but also there's a lot of times in Austin where you're able to kind of open water spam somebody while running away and just go dark. And, the extra almost 3 kilometers of range mod that keeps you lit is not really necessarily worth it to me. I find the range of 15 km with your 9.3 conceal very comfortable. I never really rage that I'm out of range of people. I don't really feel that in Austin. The arcs are great at 15 and not so much at 17.5. I take concealment, and here I take steering. I think on most cruisers, prop mod is overall better, but the damage mitigation strategy in Austin mostly has to do with angling in and catching shells on the belt, which is kind of unique to a lot of light cruisers. Like Colbert, you'd be crazy to take rudder in slot 4 instead of prop mod. Hey, you would take it in this slot, obviously, but aiming, main armaments, kind of whatever. And then I take the DFAA consumable instead of Hydro in this slot. Um, you can definitely take engine room protection, but I do really like the DFAA mod, and that's exclusively because of the 10% reload. It takes like 10 seconds off your reload time. The 20% consumable action time is a fucking joke on DFAA. Most of the time, you pop DFAA and you actually intentionally shut it off just to get it back faster. So this is my recommendation for the equipment. I do think rudder matters more. You have like an almost destroyer turning circle of 670, and then getting that rudder shift down to 6 seconds from 7.5 default is extremely nice. There's no choices to be made here. You get all these consumables. Um, and then on the captain build, there's a little bit of wiggle room. I think these skills here are basically mandatory. These skills up here. You're crazy to not just buff your DPM. You can take the skill for free, remember, okay? The Austin has 127 millimeter guns. The penalty to concealment is only above 149. So you take this for free. It's free 10% DPM. AR, obviously. Uh, Austin probably benefits from survivability expert more than any cruiser in the game. This in GNAN, our HP pool is incredibly low. It's like a over 10. It's like a close to 15% HP buff, um, which is crazy. And then down here is this is kind of where the points are up for debate. Um, I personally don't think Superintendent has very much value, sorry, on the Austin, because you get improved heal count. You get 4 heals base on Austin. Most cruisers only get 3. So, and you get 4 DFAA. So if you're taking this, you're kind of really just taking it for an extra Hydro, which does have some value. I'm not going to say it never has value, but Superintendent is kind of like uniquely not that great on Austin because most of the time when you take damage in Austin, you get chunked super hard. Um, you can make use of 5 heals. There's definitely games where it'll happen. And so this is kind of the choice between Superintendent, Concealment Expert, AA Defense Expert, and Top Grade Gunner. I think you take 2 of these. Now, if you take Top Grade Gunner, I think personally it's because you are giving up concealment. And if you take Superintendent, I think that it's because you're giving up AA. So swapping both of these for these 2 skills is valid. Because your concealment does stay okay. If you're giving up 10% concealment, you're going to be left with about a 10.4 km detect, and it's not terrible. You can definitely play Austin that way. I have. It's not bad, but it does completely destroy your ability to stealth torp. You go from very comfortably, very easily stealth torping with excellent torpedoes with a decent reload. In some situations, like let's say you're getting pushed by a GK, a Preussen, a Schlieffen, a Napoli, right? Ships that can just like no skill secondary you if you open up, and you can stealth torp them very, very effectively. So getting rid of concealment does destroy your ability to stealth torp in the Austin. I take focus fire in slot 2, and that's really just only because I don't think there's anything that has value here. I don't think fill the tubes makes sense. You're not really spamming the torps on cooldown, and I mean you could sure. I've said in basically every video, I think priority target is a objectively bad skill that introduces useless information that counts as basically noise into your gameplay, makes you concerned about threats that don't even exist, and just having room temperature IQ and 2 functioning eyeballs. Mine barely work. I'm like a +8 in both eyes, and even I can look at my monitor and not need priority target. So you probably can too. So I just take the AA skill. Um, it's kind of whatever. The extra flak is really the main benefit of focus fire. Um, but yeah, and then I take the 4-point AA skill because To me, none of these are really worth it. Top grade gunner, 8% DPM buff. Yeah, it's silly. It gives you 1.4 million, 5 million DPM instead of 1.3 million DPM with the reload booster on, if they're within 9.3. Um, so if you were to take top grade gunner, then I would give up concealment. I would run it without the concealment because if that's your goal, if your goal is you're going to be spotted more and you want more damage output, then the only way to make use of top grade gunner, kind of because your concealment is so good, is to nerf it intentionally. So the change that I would make if you want to try that is you trade concealment for top grade gunner, and you trade AA defense expert for superintendent, and then you would grab incoming fire alert or gun feeder. Gun feeder is actually kind of nice on Austin because the reload is about 6 seconds normally. Um, and it is nicer to change shells a little bit faster, but it's not. It's definitely not to me as valuable as consumable specialist. But and then last stand is like mandatory because if your engine goes out in Austin, you're just 100% giga turbo fucked and you're dead. So that is the captain build. Now let's take a look at the armor. The armor in the Austin GN is kind of unique because it's, from the top view, it's ultralight cruiser armor, right? It's 16 deck, 16 bow deck, 16 bow. But this is kind of where it's interesting and interesting in Jinan as well. Your citadel is exposed. So Thunderer, Conqueror, Lauria, nightmare ships for you. Lauria, citadels you at 15 degrees every shot. Thunderer and Conk and Citadel you at like no degrees, right? But so basically the idea in Austin is, let's say the POV is the enemy battleship, okay? And now again, like I mentioned with the Yamato, anything that overmatches 32, good night. You're dead. You're dead. You just hope they get RNG fucked. There's nothing you can do. But any ship without 460s and up, what you want to do is you're coming in kind of like this, okay? So you're not flat, but you're say at 40 to 45 degrees, something like this. If they hit your citadel, they're absolutely going to roll a couple of pens and citadel the fuck out of you, right? You can get all of your guns off. As the enemy battleship shoots, you are going to turn in, not nose in, but you're going to turn in from 45 to about, you want to go about 25 degrees, okay? Something like this. And anything hitting you here will ricochet. You're going to auto bounce. There's not really any battleship in the game that will pen you at 25 degrees, okay? Maybe, something like a Stalingrad will, but, that's a different story. We're talking about brawling battleships. So you're going to ricochet this. You're going to overpen on the superstructure. You're going to overpen on the stern. And so this is kind of the target where they can do damage to you. But if we strip away the bow, you're going to see something here. When I strip away this casemate armor, watch what happens to the citadel armor, okay? Do you see how this line of the armor belt almost perfectly matches the line of the citadel, okay? I'll do it a few times. Almost perfectly matches the line of the citadel. This is like the angle you're trying to adopt. It's about 25 degrees. For reference, it's barely angled enough that your back turrets can't all fire, okay? If you can shoot all of your back turrets in the Austin, you can get luck citadel right here. It's kind of a cheek, right? Your bow slopes in, and this is going to end up being like a low 30-degree angle. They hit 4 or 5 shells here. One rolls the ricochet check, and citadels you. So you're trying to get this perfect angling here, where if they shoot your nose, they're just going to overpen. Okay, they're basically just going to overpen the nose, and if they shoot anywhere on the edge of this casemate armor and rear, they're going to ricochet. So now, if you come at people straight nose in, if you just walk in nose in at people, like you would in Des Moines or something, because making yourself the smallest target possible in Des Moines is really your only strategy to mitigating damage in any meaningful way. But if you try to do that in Austin, then this is all they can shoot, so it's all they're going to shoot, and your citadel is not, It even kicks up. I think if you can see this, how it slopes up. It's quite high out of the water. Um, the bow is quite big. Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, anything that hits you in this general area is going to citadel you. You're probably going to blow up. You kind of have to go to this angle. Now you can bait it by showing more broadside than necessary and sweeping in. That's kind of the most effective all or nothing strategy to totally mitigating damage. But even just approaching at this angle, even if they know, like when a good Austin player does this to me in my, like, let's say my Vermont, I know what he's doing, right? I know what he's doing, and it's like you just kind of resign yourself to the fact that you're going to maybe 15k his bow. So yeah, that's the Austin special experience when you're brawling battleships, is trying to get that angling just perfect, trying to get it just perfect, and it's about 23 to 26 degrees. It's somewhere around there. Um, but that is the Austin. Um, as I've probably said multiple times, it's the most fun to me by far of any of these ships. Super, super, super fun. Strength wise, Des Moines hands down stronger. Salem is probably hands down stronger overall. Certainly easier to play. Um, let's say Worcester's even maybe, Austin is not like super crazy strong. Um, I'm a Puerto Rico hater, as if you saw that video, maybe you love Puerto Rico. To me, you're either a super shitty Des Moines when you push in, or you're a super shitty Yoshino when you kite, and I'm not into that. So Austin, literally, I do better in it than Puerto Rico by a fucking mile. Solo win rate, it's not even close. My Puerto Rico solo win rate is probably like low 50s. Austin is like 70. Um, I hate this boat. I love this boat. This is like the epitome of pure fun. Puerto Rico is the bottom of the barrel for fun. Um, so, and Des Moines, is stronger, less fun. Salem's almost as fun as Austin and a little stronger. So Austin, I'd say, is kind of like middle of the pack, middle lower of the pack for pure carry potential strength, but then kind of clear head and shoulders above all of these ships. Just the fun, man. It's so fucking fun watching those. Watching those salvos fly through the air. And in case you're wondering about the numbers, Austin has 259k base DPM. Okay, we're then gonna add 12% to it because we're taking the reload mod in slot 6. We're then going to add 10% to it because we're taking heavy HE and heavy SAP. So 319,000 base DPM with the SAP, which is quite excellent. I mean, I think everyone would be happy for that HE DPM in any of their ships, really. Obviously, HE DPM is a little better than SAP DPM because it starts fire as it can pen at 0 degrees. But then you hit the reload booster and you multiply your DPM by 4 because you fire 4 times as fast. And this becomes your base SAP DPM with the reload booster on. And as you can see, you can have adrenaline rush situations. You're on half HP. There's another 10%. So an Austin on half HP, reload boosting you with this build. 1.4 million SAP DPM. Like I mentioned with the captain build, you can take top grade gunner. 1.4 million times 1.08. 1.5 million. Sure, why not? I don't think top grade gunner is like that useful in Austin personally. Because I mean, you're kind of trying to play. You're kind of trying to fight in that 11 to 14 kilometer range most of the time. But yeah, the damage output is like absolutely fucking disgusting. Austin, I don't consider an overpowered ship. And I don't consider it overpowered because it can't carry in every situation. And it has by far the highest skill floor. Austin is probably the hardest of these ships to just even do okay in. Worcester has a pretty high skill floor as well. Puerto Rico is a very low skill floor and ceiling. Des Moines, like kind of middle of the road, right? But the Austin is a ship that feels unfair, I think is the point. Fighting the Austin feels very unfair. If it has its reload booster on, it's like, what did I do wrong? This guy just hit a consumable and he took half my ship away. Yeah, it's a very frustrating ship to play against, um, but I wouldn't necessarily call it overpowered because there's so many ships that hard counter it. So many situations where the Austin can't do much more than run and opportunistically ambush. But yeah, that is the Austin, and that is the end of this series, I guess. And I guess thank you for watching, and we'll see you in whatever the next video ends up being.